Well, hello, America. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to our show. We missed you all week. I'm Joanne Moretti, and my great co-host, Scott Ferrarello, is here with me, too, and we appreciate you tuning in. Before we begin, though, I have to do a short disclaimer, and that just lets everybody know that what's said on this show is my responsibility and not that of our wonderful hosts and sponsors. The disclaimer goes like this. The comments made by hosts and or guest hosts or phone callers of this network do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints, ideology, beliefs or anything else, as a matter of fact. Also, the show's probably rated around PG-13. We don't have any hardcore swearing or anything like that, but some info might be over your kids' heads, and you know their maturity level, so you handle that. All right, let me open up Scott's microphone here, and we'll get this party started after I give him a proper hello. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Scott Ferrarello. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Joanne, how you doing?
Very good, my friend, very good. How was your weekend?
Oh, it's always
It's always F&D, huh? That's short for fine and dandy, folks.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I bet. Oh, good to hear that you had a nice weekend, or at least a usual weekend. Mine was pretty interesting, too. I made dolls. Once they see one doll, I got to make a ton of them. Hey, Trump is on right now. He's on every station. I just switched through, and he's doing actually pretty good. He's got a full stadium over there in Dallas. In case anybody says that he only had a handful of people, that's a lie. There's a handful of people outside, too, protesting. It looked about 20 of them, but I can't really tell. It was just a quick aerial shot. And I don't know, man. He's going. He's got it going on. So I don't know how many listeners we have right now. Oh, Lynn says he's not on the Hallmark Channel. Okay, cool. Oh, Anna says she lost sound. Anna, try to refresh, honey. There's a lot of GIFs and flash things on this site, so sometimes it takes a lot of bandwidth. Can you hear me, Scott and Lynn?
Yeah, sounds fine to me.
Okay, all right. Anna says she got it now. I keep an eye in the chat rooms so that, because Blog Talk Radio fails on us occasionally. Hey, there was a shooting today at Delta State University in Mississippi. The police, this is from Breitbart, the police believe the suspect who allegedly murdered Delta State University professor Ethan Schmidt was Professor Shannon Lamb. He was one of Schmidt's colleagues at the university. Like I said, his name is Ethan Schmidt, was the guy who was killed. There was a woman in another part of town, Gautier, Mississippi. Her name is Amy Prentice. She's actually the girlfriend of the shooter, Shannon Lamb. Now, Shannon Lamb took off after he killed her and killed the professor. It sounds like a love triangle going on here. But he took off in a black Dodge Avenger. And he's got a Stone County tag on it. It's STF-015. So if you see that, just be careful, because this dude has already killed his girlfriend and killed his girlfriend's other honey. So now he seems more dangerous. Hey, over the weekend, there was a Kentucky state trooper shot and killed by a suspect during a car chase. Well, this story is getting more and more interesting now. The trooper's name was Joseph Cameron Ponder, and he was shot and killed when he refused. The man suspected of fatally shooting the Kentucky state trooper, Joseph Cameron, was shot and killed when he refused to drop his gun. The suspect was identified as Joseph Thomas Johnson Shanks. He was 25 years old. Well, turns out this Shanks dude is a Ferguson protester.
Yeah.
It says that the things get interesting because Joseph Thomas Shanks is the same guy who was active in Ferguson 14 and posted his actions on Facebook as J Mile High or J Cardinal. And it's been confirmed now. I've seen it from a few sources. So he was deeply involved in the Michael Brown shooting and subsequent protests and riots and looting and arson and all of that. He attended the funeral and the graveside services for Michael Brown, and now he's killed that cop. He got killed, too. But, it's time for us to stop saying, okay, well, they're not connected, or, it's a very loose connection or anything like that. No, it isn't. It's time to start being aware of what the hell is going on around you. And it's no coincidence that, like the last cop that got shot, the one that got shot putting the gas in his car, that guy there went to the same university as that Sandra Bland, I think her name was, the girl that hung herself in jail.
Right.
After she got pulled over, yeah. She hung herself in jail 3 days after she was pulled over and arrested. But they're still blaming the cop that arrested her for that. The cops don't go into the jail and, the woman's prison. And they have cameras. Nobody went into her cell. So, anyhow, they are definitely connected. And we can't disregard that anymore. Also, that FYF, F your flag, those people, all right, that fizzled out very badly, too. Remember that guy King Noble, and he was saying that it's open season on cops and white people, and Stone Mountain, that's where it's going to go down. Well, 8 people showed up at Stone Mountain. They ended up getting booted out of the park for being idiots. So if that was his revolution, he failed miserably. Also, the site was taken over. That site that he was using, the King Noble site, well, this guy, the Viking, who is an Anon member, he found out that the site hadn't re-upped its name, so he bought the site. Let's see, they call him Viking Power, but he took over this site, and he found all the information. He's got all the pictures. He's got all the private information and all kinds of stuff that was on that site. So the chick there, Nocturnus, her name is Sierra something or other. He doxed her. But if you go over to the site that was King Noble before, you got to see what's on there now. So, I'll tell you.
Don't people have real names anymore? Nocturnus, King Noble, sounds like a comic book. Is Batman jumping up? Hey, what?
Yep.
God.
This chick, this chick Nocturnus, Libertas, she was tweeting that 2,500 protesters came out to Stone Mountain on Friday, and dozens of police cars and MRAPs were there to greet them. The cops were in full riot gear and advancing towards the crowd, she said. But that was a lie. She said that her camera wasn't working, or she would have uploaded pictures and videos. That is a bunch of hooey. Because, when the guy did all his advertising for it, there were so many people and so many cameras there. No, there was no 2,500 people there. There were 8 people, and the chick is a liar. So his revolution failed.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, we'll get back to some more.
I hope the same thing happened to Calypso Louie.
No, yeah. Did you see that Will and Jada Pinkett Smith donated $150,000 to Farrakhan's?
That's nice.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Yeah, I got a message over at Twitter. She said, "There's nobody left in Hollywood. They're all degenerates." I thought that was a really good word.
99% of them are. Well, just like D.C. or anywhere wherever there's money, there's 99% of the people are just despicable scumbags. Maybe 1%, Hollywood's good. Clint Eastwood, Gary Sinise.
Yeah, those are good guys. Yeah, that's only 2 though. There's a whole, we need a whole bunch more. But they all just fall in line and do whatever they are. But why would you donate to Farrakhan? He's asking for 10,000 martyrs on 10.
Well, because they're all in league together. All this leftist, crap, and they know that that's where they get all their money. All these directors and producers are all leftist billionaires, and so it's a form of kissing butt. Hey, look at me, I'm donating $120,000 to, your commie cause. Ain't I special?
Yeah, Screwy Louie, Farrakhan.
Yeah. Yeah, Calypso Louie.
Yeah, we'll get back to some more of that stuff a little further into the show. But, that kind of pisses me off. Why would you donate to somebody who said that, white people got to die and the cops got to die and he wants 10,000 martyrs? 10,000 seems to be a pretty common number these days. Hey,
he obviously believes in his ideology enough to funnel money to somebody who surely don't need it.
Yeah, you're not kidding. The Nation of Islam that Farrakhan runs there, they got billions of dollars floating around. They're connected with everybody from CARE to the Muslim Brotherhood to, communists and revolutionaries and Soros and Obama and everybody.
Even Gaddafi was giving him money when he was alive.
He and Gaddafi were tight, too. You're right. You're absolutely right. Hey, we have 11 dead veterans at an Illinois veterans home from Legionnaire's disease, and 54 more are diagnosed with the illness. Jim Hoft over at Gateway Pundit says that 2 more residents of the Illinois veterans home in Quincy, Illinois, died from Legionnaire's disease this weekend, bringing the total to 11 since the outbreak started last month. 54 more people have been diagnosed with the disease at the home. It says here 2 more residents, of course, and it says the Adams County Health Department, which confirmed the 2 deaths Monday, said the test results for environmental and water samples at the home are still pending. If you got 11 people dead with Legionnaire's disease, and you got 54 more people who have been confirmed to have this disease, which is a bacteria, it's easy to recognize. All right? Now, the ones that died over the weekend, they had previously tested positive for the disease. So if you know you got this, why do you wait for pending results to do something about it? Shouldn't you move these people out of there? Shouldn't they be in another place while you fumigate? You got to clean that stuff with chloride. It comes from a bacteria that pools in sitting water, especially in air conditioning units and other things that where condensation will puddle and mold and stuff. So if you know you got that, and your patients are testing positive for it, you don't let them sit there and die while you're waiting for results. And who are
you do? That's what you want. They don't want veterans getting better. They're the last people they want to have health care. They want white, old Christian veterans to die.
Yeah, well, these families should be flipping out, too. We should all be flipping out. You're right, though. You're right. The Veterans Administration takes bets with the veterans. The veterans' job is to live, and the VA's job is to kill them off. It's been that way now for how long? The Veterans Administration is in complete disarray. And then you got a soldier's home with Legionnaire's disease, and you got people sitting in there waiting for test results, but they've already tested positive. So it's not like you don't have the bacteria. You do. 65 people have contracted the bacteria. You got a problem. How many people are in this nursing home? If 11 are dead and 54 are testing positive. And it's a veterans home. We should be flipping tables over this.
I know.
God only knows how many patients they have. Hey, today starts the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, boy.
Yep, it's also the end of the Shemitah, which ended yesterday, at sundown. And it's not really officially over unless you can see the new moon from Israel. Well, last night at sundown there was a sandstorm, so you couldn't see the moon. Today the stock market was iffy. It was up, it was down. It ended down 62. But I'm expecting some serious things to start with that. We've talked about the Shemitah. We've talked about the 7 years of the 7-year cycle. We've talked about, the people all over the world who never even heard of the Shemitah, and they're all of a sudden looking and trying to explore what the significance is. There's an author, Jonathan Cahn. He wrote a book, The Mystery of the Shemitah. He also wrote The Harbinger. And he's been running around all over the place telling us that there's going to be a big shaking. And he says the end of the Hebrew month of Elul, which is September, ushers in the start of the Jewish high holy days, beginning with Rosh Hashanah, which is today. And the Bible refers to Rosh Hashanah as Yom Teruah, and that's the day of sounding the shofar blast. the blast of a trumpet for judgment. Then 10 days later, of course, comes Yom Kippur, and that's the holiest day of the Jewish year. We also have, when this new moon, which started last night, when that moon becomes full, it will be the fourth of a series of 4 blood moons. So, got all these 5 biblical things going on. And I think that we should be paying attention. WorldNet Daily put out an article. It says the final day of the Shemitah year, Elul 29, began at sundown Saturday, and Rosh Hashanah, called the Feast of Trumpets, started Sunday at sundown. He told WorldNet Daily that he noticed 2 signs in the final days of the current Shemitah, one involving the collapse of a structure in Saudi Arabia on September 11th, and the other was a rainbow over where the Twin Towers used to stand. He said, it's very strange in the last days of the Shemitah that 2 striking signs. A storm caused the destruction on Islam's central mosque in Mecca. That killed 107 people and harmed many, many more. There was a crane that fell. All of a sudden, there was like this storm that appeared, and you could see the swirling winds on the video, and then the crane collapsed. The crane actually was owned by the family
Bin Laden family.
Right, Osama bin Laden's family. And then at the same time that crane and that storm was coming down in Mecca, there was a rainbow over where the Twin Towers used to stand. Another phenomenon getting the attention is the tetrad of the 4 blood moons, a full lunar eclipse, and that's taking place in an 18-month period that started at Passover 2014 and will be complete with the final blood moon on September 28th, 2015. So that's when the moon's going to be full. And that's on the Feast of the Tabernacle, or the Sukkot. And that's only the 3rd time in 500 years that 4 blood moons have occurred on successive Jewish feast holidays. So that's a sign, too. I'm not going to try to spook anybody, but, then you got the Pope's visit. Now, the Pope's visit is something. He's going to be here from the 22nd to the 25th, or the 23rd to the 25th. He's going to be in New York and Philadelphia. And there was a plot to harm him. Now, this Pope, I'm really scared of this Pope. Usually the Pope dies before they get another Pope, and this time this Pope is here, and Benedict is not dead yet, the previous Pope. He's off in some retreat. But they say now with this visit that the Secret Service has been monitoring threats, and some of them involve ISIS. So they said that they thwarted that threat. But you know what that tells you? If they're getting threats from ISIS to harm the Pope in the United States, that means that ISIS is in the United States, right?
Yeah, or it means it's just another line of BS. But I'm sure they're here. You can't have, thousands upon thousands of refugees flooding into the country without some of them being members of that cult.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. We got a bunch of those refugee things coming up. 2 more stories here because we have to talk about this. This is a caliphate. This isn't refugees. Refugees are running from war, from famine, from all kinds of things. These ones are not. These ones are running from safe camps in Turkey. So there's no war in Turkey. They're not being harmed. They're not running from anything. They're not in any danger. But now we're all being browbeaten. We got a story about that. I'm going to tell you too. But before we get to that, do you know the federal debt? That's not the money that we owe out. That's not the federal deficit. Just the federal debt held by the public totals more than $13 trillion, or about $107,000 per household in the United States. You guys got $107,000, and it's going to be more.
Maybe Will Smith will pay it for us.
Yeah,
he's
going to pay it for us.
Dictators and mass murder and dogs.
Yeah. Well, according to the Cato Institute, financing government debt through tax collection creates distortions, since much of the federal spending goes to subsidy and benefit programs which reduce work incentives and savings. Cost the taxpayers $3 to provide $1 worth of benefits to recipients. Who gets the other $2? See, that's so 2/3 is gone. Where's it go? Administration costs? How much does it cost to administer $1 worth of benefits for $3? That's greasing politicians and kickbacks and special things and, diverting money and all that. It shouldn't cost you $3 to give away $1. It just shouldn't.
Well, it does when your country's being run by thieves.
Yeah, well, that's a 200% markup.
Right, it's basically
300%.
Mafia loan sharking.
300%. Yeah, it's 3-1, so it's 300%. Man. So you owe $107,000, and I owe $107,000, and everybody listening owes $107,000. And that's going to get worse because, of course, they're going to increase the debt ceiling. They got that coming up.
There is no ceiling. They blew that off a long time ago.
Yeah, well, they're going to have a fight, and they're going to fight over defunding Planned Parenthood, which they should be doing anyhow. And then we're going to fight over the Democrats and the Republicans. The Democrats are doing all bad things, and the Republicans aren't stopping them. How about we stop putting in Democrats who are going to do bad things and Republicans who are not going to stop people from doing bad things? Instead, we're just getting this back and forth. And then when we're not looking, they're all out partying and having dinner and, doing karaoke at the bar across the street from the White House, all together. Even Marie Hoff was there over the weekend. Yeah, September 11th, they were all out celebrating together.
Super. Yeah, that's what I said. It's the Washington, D.C. version of the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
They just pretend not to like each other on camera, but off camera they're laughing and pounding booze and sharing hookers,
Yeah. Yeah, and they want us to play this gang game. That's another thing, too. I'm really tired of the gang thing. I don't know. What the gang is them against us. They don't care. When you got 21% of the population agreeing with this Iran deal, that means that 79% do not agree with it.
It's a dictatorship. There's no democracy. There's no republic. I mean, they put gay marriage to a vote in California. They voted it down.
Mm-hmm.
One judge didn't like that. Administration didn't like that, so they just overturned what the people wanted. They do it all the time. It's like it's like.
You're right. That
Proposition
8. I was going to say Preparation H. Proposition 8 out in California. Yeah, and when back in the day, it used to be the churches that that married people. But the government decided that for the census reasons that they had to record these marriages.
For the money reason.
Yeah, so
not
they
for
decided.
For the money. They do a census regardless.
Yeah,
for the money, steal your rights and sell them back to you.
For quality control purposes. Yeah, it was for quality control purposes. But anyhow, they decided that they needed to record the marriages with the government. So in order to do that, they decided to charge a fee for administration costs. That somehow, without any laws or legislation, turned into the government issuing marriage licenses. And it first started with the states. And then, as Scott just reminded everybody, they had the vote that Proposition 8 in California, and it was voted down. So they took it to court. The gay people took it to court. And the court decided that it was unconstitutional to refuse somebody a marriage permit. Now, if we never had a law like this woman in Kentucky, if we never had a law...
How would it be in the Constitution? It isn't.
It isn't. It's not in the Constitution. The government never actually got the authority. It's not in the Constitution. It was never an amendment. And anything that's not in the Constitution as an enumerated right of the 17 powers of the federal government remains with the states. So, first of all, the court had no business deciding that outside of a state court. And the court shouldn't have overruled and federalized it. Well, now that it's federalized, there's still no law. See, the court can only interpret law and rule on law. So if there is no law, how did they hold that woman in contempt of court? First of all, she was never a party to any court case. So how'd they hold her in contempt when she wasn't a participant in the court case? Then she can't issue marriage licenses to anybody because the Kentucky law, rolled in the ball with the federal rule. They said that was unconstitutional. The Kentucky legislature isn't back to make another law. So this woman is actually in limbo. She cannot issue a marriage license. And then, in Kentucky, you can go to any county and apply for a marriage permit. You don't have to go to her. You can go to one county over and get your marriage permit. Because if you're a state resident, you can go to any county and get a permit, anywhere. It's a state thing, not just county by county. So this is all orchestrated anyhow to go after this chick,
right?
Kim Davis.
To make an example out of her.
Yes, to make an example out of her.
She should have just quit and sued the company. She should have just quit, sued.
She can't. She can't. If she quits, then she loses. But, this isn't even about gay marriage anymore. This is about control. This is about control of the people. No one cares if gays get married. No one cares if straight gets married. No one cares any of it.
$9 an hour job is not worth going to jail for.
Right. Well, she's a civil servant. So if they're demanding that this civil servant marry them, it should be considered a civil ceremony. But what this is one step towards putting the churches out of business and taking away their tax exemption. But they have to go through the steps.
Well, they still do that. They take away your tax exemption if you're not preaching communism, the agenda, global government, global warming. Then they just won't issue you that thing. It's a bribe, is what it is. That's why they invented those 401(c)(3)s or whatever. Just a
remember,
bribe.
they were threatening to take away the tax exemption for the church when they were preaching against abortion, and they were getting threatened. But in the same breath, Obama, Michelle, Nancy Pelosi all tried to make the preachers push Obamacare. So as long as you're pushing a liberal agenda, then your tax-exempt status is fine, like Scott just mentioned.
It's crony capitalism or crony socialism for churches, basically.
Yeah. And then this Pope, he's coming out and he's forgiving people for abortions for this year to, some year that he has designated now. And he has tried to change church doctrine. And he's dealing with a revolt inside the Catholic Church. Nobody's talking about it right now, but they will be soon because there's a whole bunch of cardinals and bishops saying, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to stick to the Bible, and you can't change that. The Pope's power is limited, too. So there's something going on with this Pope, and I can't put my finger on it completely, but whatever it is, it's got me rattled. Yeah, talk about this.
He's just another puppet of the globalists that are pushing this one world government crap is all he is. He's like Obama, except a white Catholic version. So they got the white Catholic version covered with the Pope. They got the black Muslim version covered with Obama. See, now we need some Buddhists, some... you got Glenn Beck, the Mormon. He's claiming he's doing a better job than Schindler did with the Jews by bringing in Syrian refugees.
Well, I hope he's bringing in Christians because there's some really bad things going on. Hey, do you remember Robert Creamer? He's married to Jan
No.
Schakowsky. Well, he helped write Obamacare. He helped with the single-payer part and how to get it to lead to it. He's a lawyer. He's also a fraudster. He was jailed. He was in federal prison and then was under house arrest when he was writing Obamacare and working for Obama's campaign. And he's married to Jan Schakowsky out there in Illinois. Well, he, like I said, used his prison time to work on a political manual. Listen to your mother, stand up straight, how progressives can win. He even took part in writing this Iran deal. Why do they have a fraudster? Yeah,
well,
Plowshares.
probably works
They
cheap,
defended the group
you know.
as nonpartisan that he's working for. And they say they're proud of the work our grantees and partners in support of this historic nuclear agreement. So it says here, Mr. Creamer, a longtime Democratic activist, said Friday he supported the Iran deal because it was better than any alternative, and it ensured the U.S. wouldn't get bogged down in another Middle East war like Iraq. Okay, now they're telling you either go with this deal or you want war. No, there's other deals that can be made. You could put the pressure on, but they're not going to do it. And then he says it's better than any alternative. Well, aren't the Democrats running around saying, well, that there aren't any other alternatives and this is the only deal and all that? And then you remember when Harry Reid changed the filibuster rules, remember?
Yeah.
He used his power in the last Congress to allow judicial nominations to advance in the Senate with a simple majority vote instead of a supermajority. Well, McConnell isn't doing that. He changed it back.
Yeah, can you believe that? That just shows you how staged and fixed everything is. I mean, the whole point of the Republicans getting control is so they had all that power that the Democrats changed things to their favor.
Right.
And, it's like
as soon as they get in, they
got four
get it
aces in a card. It's like having four aces in a card game, and you throw them away. Say, yeah, give me 4 new cards. I got 4 aces. But, it just shows you how rigged and fake everything is. They make me sick. Those rhinos make me sicker than the Democrats, because at least the Democrats are out of the closet commies. They're not, every few years campaigning and going out on stage with a gun like they're pro-gun. And God,
it's bad. This rule change, though, McConnell's not even going to do it. Plus, it would be for this Iran deal. And this guy here, his name is Vern Buchanan, all right? He's a politician, and he said that the Supreme Court had decided the Senate can make its own rules. He said, I urge you to use your constitutional authority to break the filibuster and move forward with the debate and vote on this Iran nuclear deal. Too much is at stake. Well, this Iran nuclear deal, the Congress shot it down. The Senate didn't. And does it matter anyhow? Obama's already gone around us. These politicians are going along with this Iran deal as being an executive action. They're not even calling it a treaty. He would need the supermajority in the Senate to ratify a treaty. He'd never get it. And they would have veto proof if he changed the rules with this filibuster thing, like Harry Reid did. The first thing they do is hand back the authority to Harry Reid. We got to do something about McConnell, and we got to do something about Boehner. I have avoided saying, get rid of them. And I've been trying to put myself in their position and figure out how hard it is. It's not hard at all. You got this power, use it. Obama has incredible power. His handlers have even throughout the years had college students doing essays and research on how to go around the Constitution. These professors, like at Harvard and at Yale and Princeton, They tell these college kids in the law schools, well, okay, here's a thing for you. How about, here is the law, here is the Constitution. I want you to find a way to legally get around that. Find the loopholes. And they do. And then they pay attention to that. And this is not something that Obama has come up with himself. This is something that these radicals have been working on for decades and decades. And each piece, when it comes together, is another win. We don't have any wins for the American people. These politicians are doing every single thing they can to find ways to harm you and using your Constitution against you. And it's not just the Democrats, it's the Republicans too. When you have the authority to stop a deal as bad as this and you don't use it, whose side are you on? What are you doing there? You're not representing the people. And then this Iran deal, they haven't even seen the side deals with the International Atomic Agency and Iran. Obama has it. He hasn't turned it over to Congress. But he gives them a brief summary, and they're supposed to vote on that. None of them have seen the deal. None of them have seen any of the details, and none of them have seen the side deals. Those are going to remain confidential and secret.
And I don't even know why
Congress?
I don't even know why they go through the motions pretending to do that. I mean, you know, these people control all these weapons. They have all these weapons. They can hand them weapons like this, you know, behind the curtain, and nobody would know anyway. So why even pretend like, you know, there's a Congress and there's a vote on this, and it's all show for us, for our benefit.
Yeah. Well, I'm tired of getting jerked around by these people. You know, we do all kinds of research, and we try to see, you know, okay, we'll see all the sides of it. We'll see the Republicans, we'll see the Democrats, we'll see the peoples, we'll see everything. And none of it fits. The only thing that fits is we are under attack. Our Constitution is under attack. Our country is under attack. We're not going to have a country any longer. You know, we're looking at, they're telling us 10,000 refugees are going to be coming to the U.S. No, honey. John Kerry said 100,000. Now, if you got 4 million alleged refugees, and we're going to take 10%, that's 400,000. So they're still lying to you. Now, Zero Hedge says, for the past several weeks, it seemed as if Germany had truly become the promised land for the Mideast asylum seekers, primarily those seeking to escape the Syrian civil and global proxy war. But according to various media reports, also a material number of ISIS-linked terrorists, then it came crashing down earlier today when Germany's beloved by all refugees, Moody, said genug, and that with one decision shut down the border with Austria. In the process, unraveling decades of customs, union progress, and all of that. They have this deal, it's called the Schengen Treaty, and that was their open border policy. Well, Germany said, no, we're not going to do it anymore, and they shut their border. Now, Serbia is saying that they are not going to let Hungary send the Serbian refugees back to Serbia. They've closed their borders. They don't want the refugees back because Hungary was saying, no, we're not letting them in, so we're going to send them back. And Serbia said, no, the hell you're not. Nobody wants them. You know why? Because this is really a caliphate. I saw the most beautiful, very, very poignant article by Judy McLeod today. She's over at the Canada Free Press. She says that there's one thing Obama has accomplished for Islam. It was exposing to jihadists the horrendously soft underbelly of the present-day West. During his 7-year hold over America, Obama was the first Western leader to fundamentally transform a once thriving nation into a helpless, borderless state. Like most of his policies, the borderless country concept was not his original idea, but one he adopted from the global citizen advocating United Nations. In the upheaval caused by millions of refugees flooding European borders, too many remain unaware that the imprimatur of defenseless West was both laid bare and originated by none other than Barack Obama. In their centuries-old dream of imposing a caliphate on the civilized world, the bloodthirsty terrorists of radical Islam didn't have to read teacups this time. They only had to follow Obama's Hansel and Gretel like breadcrumbs to find a surefire way into the West. Almost overnight, the same ISIS terrorists Obama refused to name went from graphic internet videos of beheadings to heartbreaking photos of Muslim refugees, mostly women and children, dying in desperate attempts to reach Europe. For Obama, Marxist superiority went all the way from not crossing his media hype red line to zero lines of defense for the safety of unsuspecting citizens worldwide. The blueprint for taking over the West was there for everyone, including the enemy, to clearly see. With no boots on the ground and using airstrikes for show, Australia, Bahrain, Canada, France, Jordan, Morocco, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, the United Arab Emirates, and the United Kingdom flocked to Obama for the useless coalition of the unwilling. As the videos got more graphic by day, and the media dubbed terrorists with nicknames like Jihadi John or John Lennon Beatle fame, it became easy to understand the rush to the coalition. Perhaps it was easier to think in the beginning that airstrikes and drones would frighten off the terrorists. But recognizing that no boots on the ground meant no heart in the fight, the terrorists continued their slaughter of innocents, sending out horrific videos as proof. At the end of the day, the coalition of the unwilling, the West's answer to the ISIS decapitation videos, laid bare to jihadists that the West had no stomach for swift and substantial retaliation to raging radical Islam. There are 20 million refugees waiting at the doorstep of Europe, said John Hahn, the EU Commissioner for European Neighborhood Policy. Many claim that Europe, facing the crisis produced by the huge influx of Muslim migrants and refugees fleeing mainly Syria and Iraq, should open its doors. But given the realities in Europe and the Muslim world, this suggestion may well be harmful to both the West and to the Muslim world. One of the most common arguments is that Europe is not doing enough for Muslim refugees and is actually responsible for the turmoil in Syria as well as the rest of the Muslim world. The current wars in the Middle East, however, are not the fault of the West. Obviously, the Obama administration and the European governments must do more to stop the bloodbath in the Muslim world. But to say that the wars in the region are the product of the Western intervention or some other Western plots just shows how clueless and ignorant the people who make such claims are about the history of Islam. Islamic scripture calls on Muslims to wage war on other religions, to bring them under submission to Islam. Muhammad, the founder of Islam, said that he was ordered by Allah to fight men until they testify that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is his messenger. Finding room for the biggest wave of refugees since World War II has become sort of a holier-than-thou count game for politically correct Western leaders. We're taking in 10,000 more today. How many have you taken in? Are now prolific claims on the Internet. Even the Pope, who all but ignores the plight of Christians at the hands of Islam, but has called on all dioceses to make room under their roof for Syrian refugees, is in on the act. That part I wanted you to hear. Making full-bore use of the heart-rendering picture of little Alan Kurdi, even though the circumstances of his death have since been proven fallacious. That little boy, the picture of him on the beach, washed up on shore, do you know it was his father who was a human smuggler and he was driving the boat? They don't tell you that part. That little boy drowned at his father's hands. His father was a human smuggler. And he was driving the boat in a storm, and he drove it sideways, and a wave toppled them. The guy didn't even know how to drive the boat. And then it comes to find out that the Muslim Brotherhood are backing these coyotes that are moving these people. Anyhow, it says, making full-bore use of the heart-rendering picture of Alan Kurdi. Even though the circumstances of his death have since been proven fallacious, the mainstream media keeps up with the pretense that the Syrian refugees are poor people fleeing the 4.5-year-old Syrian civil war for their very lives. This is the same media that fails to report that terrorists are hiding among the refugees and that the inflow is mostly able-bodied men with very few women and children in their midst. Meanwhile, the Islamic terrorists have strategized a way to take over Europe with a foolproof strategy handed to them by Barack Hussein Obama. So here they are doing the same thing that they did. Remember, we've talked about it. When they talk about the illegal immigrants that rushed our border, and they do it in waves. You could tell it was totally orchestrated. They show up all nice and clean with fresh clothes and hair all done, just like these refugees. They're not refugees. They are an Islamic caliphate. They are 72% males between the ages of 15 and 35, exactly what was going on our border. Okay? That tells you it's organized and orchestrated. So, let's figure out who benefits from this. Soros, of course. He's always in it. You know, he loves a good revolution, and he wants to fundamentally transform the world. The United Nations is in on it. You remember that climate change czar who said this is the biggest wealth transformational undertaking the world has ever seen. They want to bring down the Western countries and bring up the developing countries. Okay, so the UN benefits from it. Who else benefits? Russia benefits. Russia's got a base in Syria that they're rebuilding. Okay, Russia told the United States the other day, you get on board because we're going to be fighting ISIS and we don't want to have any accidents. So you either cooperate with us, or if one of your planes gets shot down, well, what can I say? You were warned. All right, so now Russia's taken over in Syria. The Syrian population, they're mostly gone. The rebels that Obama allegedly trained, who dropped their weapons and joined ISIS instead, all right, they're not even in the picture. And Obama doesn't give a damn if they get killed. The Kurds, Obama made a deal with the Turks that we'll use our own base, Incirlik, but we'll let them bomb the Kurds. Remember, the Kurds were helping us. The Kurds were giving us the coordinates where ISIS was so we could bomb them. And then we never helped the Kurds. So they've all disbanded to wherever they're going. But now you got all these refugees, right? So, I mean, there's less people in Syria. Assad and Putin and, of course, Iran, they don't have to support those people anymore. They're gone. They're heading out to... First they showed up at Turkey, and then they take boats, and they come out of Libya, too. But they go to these camps in Turkey. Turkey doesn't want to keep them, so they push them along. They were safe in Turkey. So they're no longer refugees. Once they leave those camps and head out, then they're migrants. You were safe where you started out. So now they're trying to humiliate the United States and the European Union into taking these people. When is somebody going to come up with the idea, how about we fix what's going on to stop this flood of people? The Saudis, they came out the other day and they said, no, we're not going to take any refugees. We're already a Muslim country. These refugees are supposed to be spreading Islam. Why would an already Muslim country take them?
They wouldn't. They don't need to.
Right. So they're telling you to your face it's a caliphate.
Yeah, it's complete invasion of all Western-type nations.
And they never fired a shot. And then they try to make us feel bad. And they show us the picture of that dead baby washed up. And everybody's heart went out for that baby. Of course nobody wants to see a dead baby. Oh, hell yeah. And then it turns out it was his father was human smuggling people.
Propaganda and insiders in your own government that are traitors are worse than an actual army invading and taking it by force. Because they do it and you don't even see it happening. Or you do see it happening and you're powerless to stop it anyway. You know, you can complain, you can try to put in another puppet, and I mean, you know, I just don't see a solution.
This whole open border policy in Europe is about to stop. We better do it here too. Lynn posted a thing by Robert Kimball over at Red Hot Squirrel. So far, Germany shutting her border with Austria, Czech Republic with Austria, Hungary with Serbia, Macedonia with Greece. What a result. Yeah, you got the Libyans who are taking boats over to Greece. The island of Lesbos is one-third refugees now. That's a very big number. So I saw just before we came on air, Pam Geller put out a photograph of a banner that's on an overpass in Germany, and it said that your kids will submit to Islam or die. Nice welcome for the neighbors, from the new neighbors, huh?
Yeah, well, that's what they're supposed to do, is spread their joy.
And then when you look at those refugees, and they're ages 15 to 35, and they're all men. Now, you saw all the refugees coming out of Rwanda, and you remember when the Biafran refugees and the famine and all that. You remember how skinny and decrepit they were, and the little fly-in-the-eye kids and stuff? That's what refugees look like. They don't look like pumped-up, buff young men of military age. And they show up with selfie sticks and new Apple iPhones, and they're fully charged, and they're dressed nice in Western clothing. You know, they're not refugees. They are jihadis.
No, they just, they learn that you can rebrand something and people will accept it just because they say it. So
yeah, and
even when it's like when Reagan got in office, there was an MX missile, and people didn't like that the name of that. It sounded foreboding and deadly, so they just changed the name to Peacekeeper. Well, it's the same missile, but just because it was called Peacekeeper, everybody thought, oh, well, that sounds nice.
Yeah. And here's Obama and Kerry and all these bleeding hearts. Oh, we got to take these refugees. No, the hell we don't. We don't have to take those refugees. You want to feed them? You want to give them water and clothes, tents? By all means, go ahead. That's crazy, but go ahead. But
they do.
If this war-torn countries,
they give them rent vouchers. They don't give them.
No, I'm not talking about bringing them here.
Oh, I see. Well,
Joanne already mentioned our urgent call to
blows the plan.
California.
The plan is to pollute all of the West countries with Muslims, create a whole new sect of gang violence and crime waves and everything else. And, the more chaos there is, the more the government benefits from it. Everything from money to, justifying their budgets, militarizing the police, cracking down on your rights, chipping away at what little tiny freedoms you have left.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to do this.
They're trying to humiliate us. Now, if these war-torn countries are so dangerous for military-age men, why is it not dangerous for their families, their mothers, their wives, their children, their elderly uncles and stuff?
It's just an excuse. I mean, they go in and wreck these countries to begin with, which causes refugees. And then they use the reason that, the country's wrecked. These poor people are fleeing their war-torn country. Yeah, because you tore it up.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's just problem, reaction, solution.
And then last month,
average, law-abiding, good people are the ones that get screwed.
Yep. Yeah, and now we're getting browbeaten because we're like some sort of scumbag, like it's our fault. No, this caliphate's been going on for 1,400 years. All right, it's Sunni and Shia, and their job is to spread Islam throughout the world so that their prophet Muhammad can return. And he's not returning until they spread the caliphate. So Obama is doing the very best he can to help them. He's got our southern border over, and now we know that was just a test run. He doesn't care about the South Americans. Look how many refugees we've taken already. We got a quarter of the Mexican population. We probably have half the Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, and South American refugees. And we're calling them refugees now instead of illegals because everybody got mad when they were crossing illegally. They really weren't crossing illegally. They were being brought in.
Yeah. It's an invasion from within. It's treason all across the board. You know, look, the only person that was telling the truth a couple of years ago was Michelle Bachmann, and look what they did to her. And she acted. I don't think, I think she's pretty naive because, she believed in government and this and that. When she saw that all these Muslim Brotherhood people were in his administrations, she spoke up about it. Look how fast they ran her out.
Yeah.
They ran her out quick.
Yeah, he's breaking bread with them for Ramadan and everything else. And they're attached to, like, the Holy Land Foundation, the Muslim Brotherhood, and everything else. He's had Hamas at the White House. We have a friend over at our group. Her name is Mary. And she wrote, the key to Obama is his handlers. He's not proven to be an American. He's not proven to be a citizen, nor is he under any law, really. The president. So begs another question. Who in Congress is not part of this coup? Or the judiciary, or the military? No one could watch this happening without stopping it, if they were really pro-American. So, what will an election do? What can be done? The coup has happened, hasn't it? I had no answer for that. The European member states approved on Monday plans for military action against people smugglers in the Mediterranean, seizing and destroying boats to break up networks operating out of Libya. We had talked about all these refugees and stuff. Well, the EU just said that they're going to start doing something about that. Do you know that over 90% of the Middle East refugees that we have here already are on welfare? Over 90%. According to the Office of Refugee Resettlement, data highlighted by the Immigration Subcommittee staff of Senator Jeff Sessions, says that 91.4% of Middle Eastern refugees accepted to the U.S. between 2008 and 2013 received food stamps. 73% were on Medicaid or refugee medical assistance. Middle East refugees used a number of other assistance programs. They received temporary assistance for needy families, supplemental security income, SSI, for the disabled ones. I don't know how that was possible when they didn't pay into it. 19.7% live in public housing. 17.3% were on general assistance. So, can we afford more? And Canada said, no, we're not taking any of these refugees. We'd like to help you, but we don't trust them, and we don't have any way to vet them. And, of course, we talked about
like
that
Schengen
agreement. Mm-hmm.
Like they have a choice, not to mention they've been taking in Muslims for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
They don't tell you that, though.
No, not at all.
And be coming into this country from the Canadian border. See, that's what they do. It's that top-down, bottom-up strategy that they use over and over and over on everything.
Yeah, well, we have a open policy with the European Union. When these millions of Muslim refugees get their European Union passports, from wherever they end up, they can just get on a plane and come here then. They just, there's nothing stopping them.
No, when you have your own government, waving them in, tossing them bags full of money and benefits. You're just screwed.
Yeah. Yeah, you're promising to take care of them. You're going to give them food stamps and housing and money and medical assistance. Why wouldn't you go? You know who's paying for all that, though? The poor slob who gets up in the morning and goes to work. He's supporting not only Americans, but all the illegals and the immigrants that we've been letting in, the flood of the unaccompanied minors, all these programs. Their backs are broken. These people are living better than the people supporting them. The people without the food stamps and without the rental assistance and without the medical assistance, they're all paying for that themselves. It's coming out of their pockets. Plus, the, almost 50% taxation over here. And they want more. And it's never enough. And if you don't give them more, you're a deadbeat and you're a jerk and you hate refugees and you want war, and you want to see dead babies. It's all a lie. It's to browbeat you. No matter how much you give them, it's never enough. They want more. And they'll find ways to get it out of you, too. If they have to take it at the point of a gun, they'll do it.
They don't even have to do that. They don't even have to do that. The government will just yank it away out of your hand and hand it to them. So, there's absolutely no effort at all on their part.
Well, Obama said he was going to fundamentally transform the United States.
And he did. That's one promise he kept.
If you say America's so great and wonderful, why would you need to fundamentally transform something you're so proud of?
He's a wrecking ball, is what he is. He was put in there to be a wrecking ball.
Yeah.
And you know who's driving the whole thing? It's the globalists like Soros.
Yep,
Like
exactly.
John Boner sitting on top of the wrecking ball, drunk off his ass, yelling yippee-ki-yay.
Yeah, and all these politicians taking the Soros money, and the Warren Buffett money, and the Bill Gates money, and the UN doctrine, and this global climate change scam. And it's a scam worse than the refugee scam, if you can believe that there is such a thing. You know, another bright idea they have now, Obama decided that he wants our military to fight alongside Al-Qaeda to beat ISIS.
Yeah. Nice.
Fight alongside Al-Qaeda. Which one of our military is looking forward to fighting alongside of Al-Qaeda, who are the enemy? They're the enemy. They were who we were fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan and every other place. Al-Qaeda, Al-Qaeda, Al-Qaeda. That's all we ever heard. Osama bin Laden, Al-Qaeda, al-Zawahiri, whatever his name was, al-Zawahiri, the one who got killed, and they killed his kid, too, which was against the law, by the way, but that doesn't matter anymore. Now they want our military to fight side by side with Al-Qaeda. Well, there is a U.S. military revolt going on, and they're not going to tell you about it, but I'm going to tell you about it right now. ITCW says a military revolt against the plan of the Obama administration to launch a potentially disastrous attack against Syria is gathering pace, with 2 senior officers and members of scheduled services who expressed their vehement opposition to what the United States entangled in the conflict reaction. Anyhow, it says the reaction began to spread on social media yesterday, with many military posting pictures of themselves holding up signs saying they would refuse to fight on the same side as Al-Qaeda in Syria. Others have posted their photos on Twitter with the hashtag #IDidn'tJoin. As the Obama administration prepares to present a draft resolution to the legislators, it's far from limited in scope and would actually grease the skids for war of indefinite duration. John Kerry and other official State Department reported that Obama will simply ignore Congress if they vote no and launch the attack anyway. This will do little to reassure an increasing number of influential figures in the U.S. Army, which become more and more recalcitrant that the United States are being lured into a new war in the Middle East. It goes on, the Washington Post reported that the plan of the Obama administration to launch a military strike against Syria has received with serious reservations by many in the U.S. military, which is struggling with the legacy of 2 long wars and a budget that shrinks rapidly. He wants them to fight alongside Al-Qaeda to beat ISIS. You got to be kidding me. And then we have 50 major brass military are also in a revolt. They wrote a letter to Obama. Alan Westcott wrote this one. He said, "There's another group of folks you don't want to cross. We lovingly refer to them as spooks, the brave and brilliant men and women of the intel community. They know the secrets and where the bodies are buried, and it seems they're leading us to the gravesite. As reported by the not-so-conservative Daily Beast, it's being called a revolt by intelligence pros who are paid to give their honest assessment of the ISIS war, but are instead seeing their reports turned into happy talk." Remember Obama kept saying, "Oh, yeah, we're winning, and ISIS is the junior varsity team," and all of that? Well, 2 senior analysts at CENTCOM signed a written complaint sent to the Defense Department Inspector General in July, alleging that the reports, some of which were briefed to Obama, portrayed the terror groups as weaker than the analysts believe they are, and the reports were changed by CENTCOM. So the Pentagon gets these reports that ISIS isn't JV and all the inroads they're making. And, they drop a bomb here, drop a bomb here. We're flying 8 sorties a day when we were flying 800 a day in Iraq. So they're not even interested in it. They're not fighting in Syria. Putin's going to take that over.
Well, it's his ally anyway. I mean,
Even John McCain, said that Obama's to blame for the Russian buildup in Syria. Of course he is. Russia's doubling down and backing
and McCain's to blame too. I mean, they're just playing off each other again.
Yeah, well, McCain was in there, and he was talking to al-Baghdadi, and he wanted them to be the Free Syrian Army. In the meantime, we had real generals and retired generals talking to the Syrian Christians and trying to build a coalition with them, but Obama didn't want to hear anything about that. He wanted the Muslims to take part in it, and he didn't give a damn about those Christians. Those Christians have all gone. They're either dead or might as well be. The same with the Yazidis and soon the Kurds. All the people who would have been allies are now gone. So now he wants our military fighting alongside of al-Qaeda? They're not going to fight. They're going to turn their guns on the Americans. That's stupid, 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 stupid. We can't allow that at all. Even Russia. This is a bad translation, but I found this on the web today, and it was translated by Google, so keep that in mind. It says, Russia has information that the U.S. know the specific location point of the Islamic State, but did not give an order to strike on the position of the IG, said Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. In the program Sunday Times, which in the newspaper, the Sunday Times, on the first page, Lavrov said that the U.S. government was not originally a very carefully created coalition or conspired to it so that it wasn't the goal that they have been declared. So that means that he didn't put together a very carefully created coalition, just like Judy McLeod said in that Canada Free Press article. So he didn't even have any idea what he was doing, according to this. And all those goals that they said that they were trying to achieve, they were never the goals. It was a lie. He said the coalition was created spontaneously. I can't even talk now. I'm so mad. I can read this. It says spontaneously, but my mouth just wouldn't say it. Anyhow, just a few days it was announced. So that means that he's not even in it to win it. And Russia has to do something. So Russia's got this base in Syria. And now they have built a second runway for bigger planes. And then there was a ship that was intercepted in Greece. It doesn't say where it was going or where it originated from. But on that ship was aid for some of the refugees, some of them. And in it also was brand new guns, weapons, all wrapped in plastic and everything. And they were blaming Russia for it. And Russia said, well, yeah, part of foreign aid and part of humanitarian aid is giving them weapons to defend themselves with. I'm not taking any refugees, but I'll let them defend themselves. So he didn't even deny that they came from him. And then, of course, today Putin got hacked. Yeah, there's a big response, huh? I
didn't hear that one.
Yeah, I have some millennial just hack Putin. Listen to this. This is stupid. This is a Reuters article. Hackers made a very powerful attack on the Kremlin website on Sunday, the Russian government said Monday. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov linked the attack to regional elections in Russia on Sunday, in which the opposition sought to challenge government-allied politicians in the one region it was allowed to run. Peskov said the Election Commission's website came under attack on Sunday morning. Given that you will certainly be interested to know that from 5 to 10 a.m. on Sunday, a very powerful attack was simultaneously carried out on the Russian president's website, Peskov told reporters. Defense systems worked through, and it wasn't easy. The attack was rather strong. So, yeah, that's a big response. Hacker's website is, give me a break. You're going to jerk around with hacking a website? but you got refugees swarming the European Union. You got Syria in an uproar. Turkey is Turkey. Turkey's in it for Turkey, and they're like the weasels of the Middle East. You know, they're like a fence. You know, they'll run products this way and run products that way, and whatever's good for Erdogan, then that's what he'll do, and he changes like the wind. But really, it's like the ghetto over there. You know, whatever comes in, he gets a piece of, and then he decides where it goes, and he's the one that's helping the Muslim Brotherhood send the refugees off to parts unknown. They're not refugees. I'm sorry, they're migrants. They were refugees when they left Syria. Once they left the safe spot, they became migrants. Hey, I got other news. Jade Helm's over.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, sure it is.
Yeah, well, the military exercise, of course, you know, it started in June and went all the way to tomorrow. Well, they said it will end quietly tomorrow. However, carried out in parts of Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Florida. It'll conclude after 2 months of operations, and it says at this time we don't have any lessons learned to share. So they didn't learn anything that they could share with us. And they've not conducted an after-action review of the exercise. But we do believe the exercise overall was a success, they said. The guy's name is Nagel.
They spent $300 billion to do this so-called exercise.
Well, if they didn't learn anything, what about it was a success?
You know, it's hard to know what these people are doing. You can't believe the official story on anything. I mean, absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And since the government, everything they say and name is exactly the opposite of what it is, you have to assume that it isn't over, and it probably wasn't a big success. I don't know.
Well,
I just don't believe the official story on anything.
I don't believe them either. You're right. Now, tomorrow it's officially wrapped up. But, you know, what did we learn from it? We learned that they can do whatever they want. We learned that they were very good at not being obvious. Whatever they were doing, they got it done.
To lie to us, to our face. We learned that it doesn't matter whether it's, you know, violating posse comitatus or violating, you know, or declaring martial law during the Boston thing, but not calling it martial law. You know, boots on the ground, helicopters flying over your house, you know, tanks rolling down your street.
Yeah, you know, that makes me wonder if, you know, like that shooting with the reporters, we know that was BS. And a couple of other events that have happened were BS, like the Charleston thing. I have serious questions about. So I'm wondering if those weren't part of it. And we had just been led around on a leash.
Well, you know, that's also an old CIA trick. You put out fake news, and then you see who reports the fake news and who reports it being fake news. Then you know which news outlets and places to shut down right before, you know, S hits the fan. See what I mean?
True.
I mean, you know, they're looking, oh, well, Fox is going along with the, you know, with the official narrative, and so is CNN and all the rest of them. Well, we don't have to worry about those people. Let's see, who's talking about what the truth really is and not our prefabricated propaganda bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Then they know which news places to target when things go bad.
Yeah, a couple of good points in the chat room. It says if they hadn't messed with the Walmart stores, we might have ignored it. That's true. That's a sad testimonial, but it's true. If they didn't mess with the Walmart stores, we might have ignored it. Remember, folks, Walmart has their own satellite system, so that could be part of what's going on with Walmart. If all our official systems go down,
God only knows.
It's like Hillary. They got their own server.
You know, they could have built an underground prison in that place in 3.5 months.
This is true.
Who knows? God only knows what these demons are doing.
And Lynn said that they did most of it at night, too.
Yeah. A lot of plumbers work at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Hey, now we're on with this Pentagon thing. Remember a couple months ago we talked about the Pentagon accidentally sent out anthrax?
Yeah,
Remember that?
accidentally. You know.
Oh, well, wait till you hear what they
like,
accidentally sent out this time.
Jesus.
The plague.
What?
Listen to this story from USA Today. The latest military lab concerns involve plague bacteria and other deadly viruses. From USA Today. Pentagon's most secure laboratories may have mislabeled, improperly stored, and shipped samples of potentially infectious plague bacteria, which can cause several deadly forms of disease, USA Today has learned. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention flagged the practices after inspections last month at an Army lab in Maryland, one of the Pentagon's most secure labs. Does that help prompt an emergency ban on research on all bioterror pathogens at 9 laboratories run by the Pentagon, which was already reeling from the revelations that another Army lab in Utah had mishandled anthrax samples for 10 years? Army Secretary John McHugh ordered the research moratorium on September 2nd. Moreover, officials point out that continuing testing has shown the suspect samples of plague contain a weakened version and not fully virulent form that was of concern to the lab regulators at the CDC. That's a BS story. They say there's no danger to the public, but they always say that, from plague and encephalitis specimens found in the labs. Encephalitis makes your brain swell and kills you. Anyhow, it says, for the first time since the scandal broke in May about an Army lab's botched handling of anthrax, the Pentagon is now acknowledging that worries now extend to other lethal agents that it studies. In addition to the plague samples and some additional anthrax specimens, the CDC has raised concern about military labs' handling of specimens created from 2 potentially deadly viruses that are also classified as bioterror pathogens: Venezuelan equine encephalitis virus and Eastern equine encephalitis virus, which can cause rare but serious illnesses in people, including deadly inflammation of the brain. The bacteria that causes plague, Yersinia pestis, can cause several types of serious and potentially fatal illnesses: bubonic plague, which has symptoms that include swollen lymph nodes; pneumonic plague, which involves the infection spreading to the lungs; and septicemic plague, which may involve skin and other tissue turning black and dying. It's the pathogen always blamed for the Black Death that killed millions of people in Europe during the 14th century. Today, antibiotics can be used to treat the disease, but plague still kills about 11% of those sickened. Untreated pneumonic plague has a fatality rate of about 93% and can be spread from person to person through aerosol generated during coughing. This goes on, and it says here that the suspect specimens, which may be live, despite being labeled as killed or weakened, indicate a wider range of dangerous bioterror pathogens being handled using sloppy safety practices. Okay, bubonic plague. There was a woman who showed up at a hospital in Boston about 10 years ago, and she had these black spots on her stomach, and the skin was dying. It was just like rotting. When they cut her open, she smelled like ammonia. They had to clear the emergency room, and they found out that she had bubonic plague, and she was a scientist. And I remembered that because the smell of ammonia, that struck me as something that maybe we should know. But now you're telling us that the Pentagon has sent out mislabeled and doesn't know where some of these plagues are? Who has them? They didn't just get up and walk out of a allegedly secure laboratory. They weren't in someone's pocket. Or were they?
These are created. That's what the CDC stands for, Center for Disease Creation. They resurrect all these horrific viruses that wiped out 90% of the people they touched. They talk about it in their books. They write papers on it. People like Ted Turner and Bill Gates come out and publicly state that they want population reduction, 6 billion of us. So how do you think they're going to go about that? Well, war works good, but it's kind of slow. So you got to go for starvation and viruses.
Mhm. And then there was a wild hog that was shot out in California in Morgan Hill. Lynn just put this in the chat room too. We had read it earlier. When the guy shot the hog, because they're pests anyhow, so you can kill them. So he cut it open, and it was a fluorescent blue. The fat on this hog was a fluorescent blue. And they said, well, he might have been eating or drinking water from behind a candy factory, and sometimes pesticides do this, or baited grain and other things. Well, I don't know what the hell happened, but I've never seen anything this blue. So that's something you should keep an eye on, too, with these feral pigs. What was the pig eating that turned its whole fat and body and everything inside of it blue? But not like how you look at your veins and they're like a blue-green? It's not like that. It's like blue, like UN blue.
I don't know. Twilight Zone shows make more sense to me than what these psychopaths are doing to us.
Yeah, well, I don't know what caused that, but I don't want my fat to look like that.
I'm just grateful I'm not, 15 years old and have to grow up underneath this. It would just be a nightmare.
Yeah, well, what the hell's going out there in California that's turning the pigs in its blue? Hey, in Virginia, the Virginia governor, you know him, Terry McAuliffe. He was a Clinton staffer. He was actually, wasn't he, like the chief of staff for him? Well, he made headlines when, after the shocking on-air murder of 2 journalists, he called for new gun control laws before the cops had even captured the suspected shooter. Well, now he's catching heat for attending an anti-gun rally organized by the anti-gun group Every Town for Gun Safety. He showed up with armed security. When asked by Town Hall's Katie Pavlich why his security detail can be armed yet others cannot, McAuliffe responded, "You can be armed. Go to a background check." Washington, D.C. has only approved 44 concealed carry permits out of 206 applications since October, so you're not going to get far with them. That's illegal, too, by the way. Anyhow, McAuliffe then claimed he was only calling for closing of the gun show loophole. Asked why he implied Virginia did not have background checks for firearm purchases, the governor responded, "We don't have, you can go to gun shows and there's a loophole." When pressed to state which gun show exactly he was talking about, when he implied dealers at gun shows in Virginia that advertise they don't run background checks, McAuliffe simply replied, "You can go to any gun show. They have signs." Well, as for the gun show loophole, that's BS too, because under the Brady Handgun Violence Protection Act, which created the instant criminal background check in NICS, firearms licensees are required to conduct a background check for all firearm transactions, even if they sell the firearm at a gun show. So that tells you that Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe is FOS. He wants gun control, all right. He wants to control your guns. He wants to be the only one with a gun. His people can have guns, but you certainly can't have guns, even though it's your constitutional right. It's about the control. And then I love these people who, like him, well, the cops in the military should be the only people that have guns, but then they'd be the first ones to tell you, well, the cops are bad and violent, and the military are baby killers. So why would you want them to be the only ones with guns? I'm seeing a problem here.
Yeah, it's just the global agenda they're pushing, that's all. That's all it is. They get probably a book as thick as War and Peace. This is what you push, this is what you talk about, this is what you oppose. Go through the motions and you get a nice fat check in your, in your mail.
Yeah, well, if the government is the only ones with the guns, then what are you going to do? You're going to fight the government? Good luck with that. The Second Amendment wasn't written for hunting. That was a given. That was a natural way of life. The Second Amendment was written to protect the citizenry against a tyrannical government. When you see Terry McAuliffe show up with armed bodyguards at an anti-gun rally, He's telling you to your face he wants to be the only one with the guns. That's a message, ladies and gentlemen.
Hypocrisy is a popular thing nowadays. There's no shame in it. There's, they lie to your face. They're the biggest hypocrites in the world, but there's no shame. There's nothing that goes. There's no downside they can see by it. So.
Hey, guess who's not running for re-election?
I don't know.
The Baltimore mayor, Rawlings Blake.
That's
She's not
right.
running. Yep.
She's
Definitely
probably getting a promotion, for being a good puppet, and so they're just pretending that she's not running for re-election because she's already got some other gig lined up. Probably $1,000 times better.
She's already the secretary of the DNC. She's the right-hand man to Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She's the president of the DNC, and this chick, Rawlings Blake, is the secretary. And she only got the job because the other mayor got thrown out, and she happened to be the head of the city council at the time. So they just put her in there. Then she ran and she won. So she won one term, but she had to finish out a term for the other mayor who got busted for corruption. Now, does anyone think in the wildest dreams that it matters whether or not she doesn't run? They'll just put another ringer in there. As long as it has a D behind its name, it's getting elected. People are so wedded to a D or an R that nothing is going to change in Baltimore. They haven't had a Republican there in 33 years. What's his name there? Cummings. Elijah Cummings, the one that acts like he's Hillary's lawyer in the Benghazi thing there, always trying to shut people off and shut people down and all of that, right? He's been their congressman for 28 years. He's not leaving. Rawlings Blake, she's the secretary of the DNC. You're right, she's probably got a better gig. But whoever the D is that they put in there is not going to be any different or any better. And then they gave $6.4 million to the family of Freddie Gray. That was fast. 5 months, and you settle something like that? How many people out there have settled a civil case in less than 5 years? Let alone 5 months. For $6.4 million. And they didn't even have to go to court. It was just given to them. Okay, here, that's how much you want. Give it to them.
Yeah, there you go. Given to them. They just, fabricate an excuse and then say that's what it was for.
Yeah, well, doesn't that make those cops look guilty if the city's already paying off? And the cops are getting railroaded. I mean, the Baltimore Attorney General, there's a story here from the PC Graveyard that says that the Attorney General is framing these cops. Now, is there anybody in Baltimore who hasn't heard about the riots or the Freddie Gray or the cops or any of that? There's not one person probably in the country that hasn't heard about it, never mind in Baltimore, but they're going to keep those cops' trials there. And this chick hasn't even gotten off this Marilyn Mosby. She hasn't even gotten off of the discovery. Listen to this story. Marilyn Mosby, Baltimore's state attorney, she announced the criminal charges, of course, against all the 6 officers, and she gave off the money and everything. But it says here, lawyers for the 6 Baltimore police officers who've been charged in the death of Freddie Gray have filed papers with the court that, if true, means that Marilyn Mosby has hidden exculpatory evidence and may have helped shape the autopsy report. In any criminal case, the prosecutor must provide all evidence gathered to the defense lawyers. Apparently, that's not the case if the filings are correct. The activist prosecutor has been accused of questionable acts and has been seen as self-promoting politician, hell-bent on prosecuting the police officers for political gain. According to the filings by defense attorneys, Mosby met with Carol Allen in a private meeting days before the autopsy results were made public. Mosby did not report this to the defense and leads one to wonder if she didn't convince Allen to rule the death a homicide. The meeting could have been harmless, but if that was the case, why was it not included in the discovery? Had this been the only information withheld from the defense, it would not be so damning. But she also allegedly withheld statements from witnesses who said that Gray had been banging against the inside of the van and rocking it on the day of his arrest. It's also been asserted that the prosecutors received evidence that Freddie Gray tried to hurt himself during previous arrests. Both of these items were withheld from the defense attorneys, raising questions about the ethics of Mosby. Hiding exculpatory evidence is ground for disbarment. She should have been disbarred long ago.
Well, you don't have any ethics if you're anywhere in this administration or in government.
Mm-hmm.
That's a prerequisite. Not to have any ethics, not to have any conscience, not to have anything that normal people have. Common sense, character, integrity.
Mhm. Absolutely. Hey, we only got a few minutes left, but I want to talk about Hillary. You know, Weiner is working for her campaign, but he was told to stay out of sight. And the public relations firm that decided to put Anthony Weiner on its board of advisors this summer is losing clients that don't want to be associated with him.
I wonder why. So basically, they're telling Hillary to keep Weiner under wraps, huh?
Yeah, well, this guy here, Weiner was hired by MWW, owned by a major Democratic fundraiser, Michael Kempner, as an expert on public policy that will not be expected to serve clients directly. And then it goes on, corporations don't want the image of working with a firm that's affiliated with Weiner. Even the firm wants Weiner to keep its distance. When Kemper hosted a Hillary Clinton fundraiser at his New Jersey home last week, Weiner was asked not to attend. Weiner's wife, Huma Abedin, currently works as a top advisor to the Clinton campaign. And she's not going to be charged with embezzling funds and double dipping and double billing the government or any of that. That was just thrown out.
Well, of
Clinton's
course. Was there ever any doubt?
Nope.
Oh, my God.
Well,
it's
71%
so
of Democrat women were leaning towards Hillary. Well, that's down to only 42% now. So she's dropping like a rock. And, of course, Trump, he was on...
You know what? I bet you it's 20%, if that. It's probably more like 12%. You know, it's just like these job numbers and everything else. They just fabricate them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just pull them out of a hat, basically. Well, Jeb Bush, he's still number 2 somehow. Yeah, he's number 2, all right, but not in the polls, not in any real polls, unless they're polling his, family picnic. I mean, come on, it's just all BS. Can't trust anyone. You can't trust Gallup even. You know,
the Democrats, they're only going to have 2 debates, but there's a debate Wednesday night with the Republicans, and that's just going to be a Trump bashing. And every time they bash him, his numbers go up. They don't know how to fight. They don't know how to fight Trump. And Trump is
don't even know how to debate. They're just, it's embarrassing to watch and listen to.
Yeah, well, Trump's numbers are going up, not down. And every time they try to attack him, the people are seeing Trump as an underdog, and his numbers are going up. Tonight he had 20,000 people at the American Airlines theater in Dallas.
It's like the same thing with Fox News, okay? When all the TV stations and everything are so left-wing, commie liberal, just horrifically liberal and biased, you get one station that isn't like that, even if they only give out 30% of real news, it's still 30% more than the other ones do. Then they look like, look at how popular and great they are. Well, there's nothing else to choose,
Yeah, well, that's why we do our own
just
research around here. We dig for facts and dig and dig and dig. Jeb Bush's campaign says it's ready to rumble Wednesday. He's going to take on Trump. Obama was mocking Ben Carson. Ben Carson said that he doesn't want the Department of Education, and we have to have it. He wants them monitoring institutions of higher learning for extreme political bias. He was talking about, all these liberal universities, and he wants the Department of Education to monitor them for bias. I don't want the Department of Education monitoring anything. I think we should give all the education rights all back to the states and let them handle it. Just ban, completely get rid of the Department of Education.
I know, and that's another thing they've been arguing about for 40 years.
Yeah.
Or whenever Jimmy Carter implemented it.
Yeah, and I thought Scott Walker was going to do better than he did. You know, he's not a bad guy, but you had Trump's rise and then the first debate.
He's already going down in flames. He canceled his GOP speech thing in California. He's already going down. And Perry threw in the towel early because, you know, he's about as exciting as
and that dude Kasich.
Barney Fife.
I listened to him on Chris Wallace's show yesterday. You got to be kidding me. He's a full-blown lib. You know, I don't know anybody.
He flip-flopped like, I mean, he used to sound great. I mean, I used to listen to him, and he sounded like a hard-nosed conservative, and like overnight he changed. Well, the NSA probably sent him something in the mail and said, hey, you want this to be on the evening news next week? Better change your tune there, pal.
Yeah, really. All right, we're out of time. You got anything left to say to our guests tonight?
No, just stock up on food, buy weapons, pray a lot. That's all you can do, people.
Bullets. Buy bullets. Your weapons are useless without them. And that's another thing, too. The EPA is trying to outlaw lead in bullets because it's bad for the environment.
Yeah. Well,
so they want you to use those Chinese little copper clad or whatever that just melt and fall apart and jam your gun. So you're no good without bullets. Every time you get an extra dollar, get bullets. All right, say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Scott, thank you so much, my friend. All right, guys, that's all the time we have for today.